This is a review of the Smart Play all-in-one Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. This set is set 75421 with 475 pieces, of course coming with the Smart Brick and rated 8+. This set comes with two minifigures, being the Smart Darth Vader as well as a Rebel Fleet Trooper, and it also comes with one Smart Brick and one Smart Tag. Upon opening the box, you will have this as a presentation for the Smart Brick, which isn't really the greatest because it does come out a little dusty and scratched. But in the actual set, of course, you get all of the bags as well as 3 different instruction booklets. 2 of them are actually for the build, and you also get a little long piece which is used in one of the final bags of the set, and then you get where you actually put the Smart Brick to charge as well as the cable. And here's where all of the actual Smart Brick manuals and the manual for the actual set is. The set comes with 5 bags, and again, those 2 instruction booklets. One of them is actually a Smart Play guide, which the first few pages actually tell you about the Smart Brick, how to turn it on, and the rest is just a bunch of words that honestly I don't really care about. Here is what the back of it looks like, and here's a closer look at the charger in bright yellow, which they probably could have done a little bit better on the color scheme, but here it is on the actual charger. It works pretty nice. I did have to charge it before I actually started playing with it, but it didn't take too long. So here is the finished build, and of course I'll start with the minifigs. First you get that Smart Brick Vader, which is basically the same exact Vader with arm printing and everything, but the torso and legs are connected, and it does have that shorter cape. And the main differences between it are, of course, again, the short cape, but when you flip it up, you have that little Smart Play logo on it. And if you lift up the arm here, it has some like copyright stuff and like the factory is made and everything. And if you flip it over to the other side, you have that trash can logo, which is definitely not nice. But besides that, it's basically just a normal Vader, definitely the same like printing design, everything, of course, besides everything on the back. But here's what it looks like compared to a normal Vader, and that short cape just makes it look like horrible, honestly. And they even did it for the Royal Guards, which aren't even smart figs in this wave, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully they actually go back to those long capes. But before I get to the Smart Brick sounds with that Vader, I'll take a look at the other fig we get, being the Rebel Fleet Trooper. We've seen him before. He looks very nice. We have this regular like face there, and then you have him like grunting or whatever on the side, which is nice to go against your Smart Brick Vader. So now I'll show some of the sounds that the Smart Brick Vader makes with the Smart Brick. Shake it to wake it up, I believe. There we go. It is awake, so I have to be very quiet to actually hear some of these sounds. It makes different sounds with the TIE Advance alone, the TIE Advance with the Vader, but just Vader will make sounds like this. It makes a couple of those different voice lines, but it is, again, like mainly the same like voice overall. It does have a different tone sometimes, and it will also sometimes have breathing, which is probably one of the rarest ones. It's mainly those common ones of him just talking. I'll try to get one of him breathing, though. So that's what it sounds like when he's breathing, which is actually pretty nice. I mean, it's definitely not as iconic as I would expect it to be. It doesn't sound exactly like his breathing, but with a little imagination, it definitely seems like something Darth Vader would be doing. Getting mainly just the Rebel Fleet Trooper minifig out of the way, I'll take a look at the TIE Advanced here, which from the front looks like a pretty nice build overall, but when you turn it to the back, you have that exposed area for your Smart Brick. So, again, make sure that's awake, and you do get that printed Smart Tag for the TIE Advanced. So you can attach it in there. Makes a little bit of those blinking sounds. And before I actually show just the TIE Advanced, I want to show it with Vader, because I believe it makes a sort of an Imperial March when he gets into his TIE Advanced. So there is that little Imperial March there. Here's what it sounds like with Vader in it. So you can hear some of his voice lines while he's flying. Of course, you have the shooting, which sounds the same every single time. And if you crash, it'll have Vader's sound, like a little bit of his voice line. So if we remove Vader and fly it around and crash it, Crash it. It won't really make that sound of Vader being in the TIE Advance. It won't have him yelling, which I think is a pretty cool detail overall. That's basically all the sounds it makes. Definitely my favorite sound is when Vader actually gets into the TIE Advance and it actually plays a little Imperial March, which I think is really cool. So you actually have this really cool side build here, which is obviously meant for play, where you get this little green hammer, which can fit there, which isn't really too sturdy. It'll just fall off, but I don't think that really matters too much. You have this fuel pump here, which you can take off, and it'll make a little bit of a sound there. It's kind of like a weird sound of fueling oil there to the TIE Advance, which I think is really cool. And it does indicate like where you want to put that like little pump here. And then also this green hammer to repair it. And then it's fully repaired. I believe these actually can like take damage. Like if you shoot it at like another smart brick, it'll actually take damage. I'm not sure how like the whole health system works, but I believe there's actually a way to like really repair it and actually will affect the play overall. But honestly, I think that's it for the real smart brick portion of this video. So moving that TIE Advance out of the way, as well as this side build, you get another side build to really like coincide with that TIE Advance, which is perfect for your Rebel Fleet Trooper. It's obviously supposed to be like a little bit of Yavin. You get a lot of like little pieces of the building, a really nice terrain overall. I actually kind of like this alt build, and not really alternate build, the side build is what I meant. And then you get this little like satellite disc here, which you can rotate. Like this way, like that. You can't really rotate too much, like up and down. It's just left and right, but still looks very nice. And then you have this little screen area which I believe this is actually a new like printed tile or printed slope, I guess. And then you have that nice screen, which you can't really adjust, but you have that nice seat there. So you can have your Rebel Fleet Trooper just sitting in there and like scanning everywhere. Or you can have him standing up by that stud shooter right here. And then no smart brick compatibility at all, but you can like turn around a full 360 and of course launch these studs. But that's going to do it for my all-in-one Darth Vader's TIE Fighter review. Hope y'all enjoyed and see you all in the next one.